So recently, somebody commented on my audio video / podcast where I talked about the fact that Sonic Frontiers director Kishimoto indicated in a Q&A that he is very interested in bringing in established comic book characters of past Sonic lore, mostly indicating that he would like to bring in the Freedom Fighters, that being Sally, Bunny, Antoine, Rotor, Dulcie, Lupe, you name it. However, this person also commented that not only are they excited and everything for the possibility of this happening, but they also feel that there's going to be some loops that need to be, I guess you could say, run around. Some kind of hoops to be, jumped into and through to make this happen. However, I want to make it perfectly clear to this person, as well as anybody else that's wondering that. And that is, one, there will be no loops or hoops that have to be, run around or gone through to make this happen. Why? Because Sega themselves own the rights outright of these characters. No matter how you want to view it, they own the rights. Not Archie, not, Wild Brain Entertainment, Dick Entertainment, if you will. Not the family of Ben Hurst, not Pat Ali, not, IDW, Sega. Sega themselves own the rights. And the reason they own the rights is because the Freedom Fighters are based on those animals that you would rescue after every stage was cleared, every level was cleared in the classic Sonic games. That is why. Thus, they do not need permission from anybody, and I mean anybody, to want to use Sally, Bunny, Antoine, Rotor, Dulcie, Lupe in the games. They do not need permission from anybody, period. And if you're wondering why, if they don't need permission, they haven't utilized these characters since the days of Archie, in which wasn't that long ago, it's quite simple. It's because of the fact that they want to use the momentum they got with IDW Sonic right now, the momentum they got with Sonic Frontiers, to rebuild and reestablish the Sonic franchise as the premier gaming franchise, in the world. That is why we haven't seen these characters yet. Not saying we won't, because I have a feeling eventually we will. It's just going to take time. And I think the first place we might see them, of course, will be the IDW comic. When and where that happens, that's totally Ian Flynn and Sega's call and all that, and the group that Ian Flynn is involved in. Because Ian Flynn, believe it or not, is involved in I guess you could say, an exclusive club that Sega, along with IDW and everybody, put together to help build this connecting Sonic lore all across the board, from the comics to Sonic Prime, to the games, and by extension, even the movies. But, that is what they're a part of. That's what Ian Flynn is a part of. So it's only up to him and those that Sega appointed along with him, to decide when and where we get these characters. And I think it is going to be soon. We just don't, like I said, we just don't know when and where, the hints, the references, the acknowledgments are going to be more strongly showcased in the comic or even the games, when that time happens. But like I said, I think mostly it will be the comics. It's just a matter of time. But I think when we start seeing, in the comics and reading, a lot of stronger hints and acknowledgments and references, that's when you'll know we're getting closer and closer to that moment. But to basically wonder if Sega needs permission to use these characters, no, they don't. Because these characters basically could be used at any time. The only thing that may happen, and everybody has pretty much pointed this out, the only thing that may happen is things might change. One of the things that Ian Flynn indicated in his shipping Q&A he did yesterday for Valentine's Day is that we would probably not get a Bunny Antoine relationship or marriage because that's an Archie thing. It doesn't mean we wouldn't get the characters, similar to what we saw in Archie, personality-wise, with a few changes here and there. We just wouldn't get them as a couple. Same with Sally. We might get Sally as we know her, personality-wise, with a few changes, but it would be kind of a different take on her, to fit into that universe. Like the personality is what we know of, the characteristics of what we know of, but there are going to be a few tweaks here and there to kind of, showcase that this Sally is different in some ways, some major ways, not much, than what she is from Archie comics, and so on. But to basically come out and say, oh, they would need permission, no, they wouldn't, because they own the characters and they can do what they want with the characters. And like I said, the reason they're not utilizing them right now is because they want to focus on rebuilding the lore first before they do it, especially when it comes to the comic, because the comic is an extension of the gaming world, so they're going to want to use that first, as a platform to really help get people, into what's going on with Sonic as we speak. Now, with that said, I was recently watching one of Mega Beatman's videos, his reviews, on IDW issue 57 of IDW Sonic. And he was wondering about something in that issue about a character that made her on screen, well, she's been on screen, but as a background character, but made her on screen in active duty debut with this issue. That character is called Lanolin. Yes, the same name you would expect from the sheep character from U.S. Acres. Lanolin the lamb here makes her on-screen, in-action comic debut with issue 57. And I will admit that from what I've heard and read, from other people's perspective, she gives off the vibes of a Sally a little bit when, she gets on Sonic for, acting the way he did. So I don't know if Lanolin is maybe being used as a test subject to see whether or not, fans would enjoy having a character like that, always be around Sonic. Well, they're friends with him, but they won't tolerate his BS. Maybe to prep people and get them ready for a certain princess or a certain character by the name of Sally, down the line. We don't know. If it is, hey, that's a great way to, kind of test those grounds. I'll put it that way. But one of the things that Mega Beatman brought up was a concern. Because you see, he brought up that Lanolin is basically a character that's created by someone exclusively for the comic. And that he's kind of fearful if this individual that created her specifically for the comic was to pull a Ken Penders, if you will, and leave, that if her character is still being utilized in the comic, that artist that created her would want royalties. And that if they didn't get royalties, they would do what Penders did and take our IDW, and by extension Sega, to court. And it's understandable why Mega Beatman and probably others, feel this way, because if this was to happen, it would pretty much, basically mean that, no matter what person, not what person, but what company, comic book publisher, if you will, you go to do a Sonic comic or a licensed comic of any kind, that no matter what you do, no matter who you go to, that if you're going to do the comic, you mainly may have to just utilize the established characters owned by the licensee, in this case being Sega. So I can understand, like I said, I can understand Matt's concerns. I can understand other people that feel the same way. But I don't think they have anything to worry about. And here's why. Mainly because of the fact that I think when they created this partnership with IDW, Sega basically made sure to cover all their bases. Year after year since this partnership began, Sega has made sure to, in my opinion, cover all the bases so they do not have a repeat of what happened with Archie Comics and the likes of Ken Penders and such. And why do I say that? Because I believe that when Lanolin was created for the comic, and maybe the comic only, Sega made sure in the agreement with IDW that if any characters are created specifically only for the comic, that basically those characters right off the bat, even if they're created by somebody else, like if Ian Flynn said, hey, I'm going to create so-and-so character for the comic and everything, that character, even though Ian Flynn originally created it, it's an OC of his own, that character, by debuting in IDW Sonic, would become property of Sega. And that's why I think Sega is covering their bases. That any character that's created specifically for their comic with IDW is now their property. That includes Lanolin the Lamb. So I don't think anybody that is wondering the same thing, like Matt Mega Beatman, is wondering of whether or not we could see a repeat of history, with this creator of Lanolin the Lamb in IDW, like we saw with Ken Penders and Archie Comics. I don't think we have to worry about that. Because from my opinion, maybe I'm wrong, but from what I can tell, it looks like Sega is not taking any chances this time. It's like they're saying, yeah, you can create the character, you can make them a comic exclusive, but, once you put them in that comic, in any role, especially if it's a major on-screen role, then that character automatically becomes our property. Which means if they want to, in a future Sonic game, because they want to try to connect a lot of things, if they want to reference her, or even have her as a background character, in that game, especially with a cutscene, then they would have all the rights in their means to do so because of the partnership here with IDW and the agreement that everybody had to agree to that this character is now Sega property. And to me, that's why I don't think we really have to worry whether or not we would have a repeat of Penders and Archie again, with this situation, because like I said, I think Sega's covering all the bases. They're making sure IDW, you can publish our book. We're gonna work out and have a great partnership, hopefully, with you. But here's the catch: whatever characters your artists or writers create specifically for the book, once they're put into that book, no matter what, or whatever situation you put them in, they automatically become our characters. So I don't think when it comes to the Lanolin character, that was created, for specifically as a background character, now as an active member, I don't think we have to worry about anything, happening, with that character in the foreseeable future. I don't think we have to worry about, this character not appearing anymore if the artist decides to leave or all that, because I think and believe Sega has covered their bases. They've learned the lesson, is what they've done. They've gone and learned the lesson. They've realized, yeah, we made a mistake. We didn't have all our ducks in check when it came to Archie. Now we do with IDW. So that's why I don't think anybody like Mega Beatman or anybody else has anything to worry about. Anyway, though, guys, I know it sounded like I rambled a little bit, but I just wanted to come on here, give you my thoughts as to why, Sega will not need any permission whatsoever to utilize the characters in any Sonic properties, whether it's the games or the IDW comics or whatever, because they own the characters. Just like, in my opinion, they now own this Lanolin Lamb character that has been in IDW Sonic comics as a background character for some time up until this point. So I don't think, you have to worry about this character disappearing, and you don't have to worry whether or not Sega has to get permission, because they will have all the rights in their corner. They will have all the aces in their corner to say, yeah, these characters are now ours, no matter what people might say. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Comment below, live chat during the premiere, like the video. And until next time, guys, I am out.